following podcast is being brought to you by the Defy Life Podcast Network.
This week on the Defy Life Podcast, the guys talk to Stacy for another Psyche of a Single Mother segment. They tell us what they know, that they know from Week 3 in the NFL, talk some NBA playoffs, and answer a listener question. And as always, they wrap things up with some trivia. On to the show. Let's get it. Yeah, that's what it is. I guess we gotta do it then. You alright? Chill. Pool. Out. Money. West Coast. Let's get it. Strap in, let's take a ride. Oh yeah, it's about that time, right? Been waiting all week to get to this. It's finally time to defy life. Let's chop it up, keep it real, no other way. That's what we do. We might disagree, but it's all love. Guarantee we gon' speak the truth. Yeah, this hit different. My guys with me now. Who's with us? Stick around for a few minutes. It's contagious. You'll get it. You downloaded the realest. Don't feel us, but get out. You not rocking with Defy Life, then what's your life about? This ain't the skyline. Told you. On to the skyline. Welcome back to another episode of the Defy Life Podcast, powered by the Defy Life Podcast Network. This episode is sponsored by Bud Bottles, home of the Bud Bottle and the Bud Freshener. Please visit budbottles.com for your odor eliminating needs. This is episode 175. Y'all come on in, wipe your feet, close the door behind you. I'm your host, J.R. Glenf, joined as always by my wonderful co-host, Alden Glenf. What's good, cuz?
What's going on, cuzzo? How you doing today?
Hey, no, man, I'm good. Good to hear your voice.
Same here, man. Feels good. Good to be here always.
No
good
doubt.
to hear your voice. And, just days like this, you just don't take them for granted. But I without a doubt, this is definitely one of the highlights of the week always. Just to be on here kicking it with you and just talking some shit.
Absolutely.
Be here.
Yeah, man. Here. No doubt. Well, speaking of not taking it for granted, our brother Pooh is under the weather. So y'all pray for Pooh. Free Pooh. Do whatever you want to do. But I hope that dude get better, man.
Yeah. Definitely. I wasn't laughing at praying for Pooh because, we want Pooh to get better and be on the show as much as possible. And
right.
Whether he's on the show or not, just want him to get better. And, I hope it's not the word on the street is that the performance of Mr. Trubisky is really what had him feeling so bad. But
yeah,
we'll have to ask him when he gets back if that's what it was.
The Trubisky virus is going around.
Oh, that has to suck. But I thought they kind of find an antidote in tricky Nick Foles.
Right.
So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see if Foles is a mask or actual antivenom for the virus. So we'll see.
We'll see, because it's kind of hard to have long-term faith in Foles.
Yeah.
Either injury or inconsistency, but
right.
You never know. And so we'll just leave it at that. We'll leave it at that.
So I guess if he does turn out to be good, we'll call him Vaccine Nick. I don't know.
Vaccine Nick.
But either way, Pooh, get well, man. We miss you already.
Real talk.
Well, yeah, man, we got a good one for y'all tonight, man. And before we get too deep into it, like always, got to do a little bit of house cleaning. So just want to shout out our patrons, all of y'all. I ain't gonna pinpoint one of y'all out this week. I want to shout out all of our patrons this week. Thank you for your support. Thank you for everything you do. We mean that from the bottom of our hearts. Thank y'all. People always ask, what's the best way to support the network? Go to patreon.com/GoDefyLife and become a patron of Defy Life. You can help us support our growth and allow us to host events and continue to work in our communities. For less than your favorite fast food combo, you can support Defy Life. So, again, check us out at patreon.com/GoDefyLife. You can check out our podcast hub at defylifepods.com. You can also check out our written content at the original, the OG, the granddaddy of them all, GoDefyLife.com. And lastly, don't forget to check out our branded apparel at defylifegear.com. As we're saying, it's hoodie season. Everybody go get your hoodies. So we got everything for men, women, kids. Go get ready for this weather break. So got a feeling it's gonna be a cold winter. So check us out.
Definitely, I think it's going to be a cold winter too, and with voting season coming on, you might have to stand online to get your vote on. So make sure you get your Defy Life hoodie to kind of keep your ears warm and keep your heat in.
Right. And Al, to let you know, I got my his and hers one eye shut T-shirts on the way.
Nice.
Yeah, my ungrateful ass wife was like, "What you get me?" I said, "A white one." She said, "I wanted a black one." I said, "You wasn't gonna have one if it wasn't for me."
Damn.
Right. So, but you welcome. But enough about her. She get her shine tomorrow. But yeah, man. So got those on the way. Yeah, and shout out to Lynn and Kim, man. They back. Been missing since July. They are back with another
restaurants and everything. So
right.
They got good excuses. Yeah. I ain't mad at them. I ain't too mad at them.
Right. So they've been chefing it up for the last few months. So they made their return yesterday. Okay. And so they are. Well, by the time y'all hear this, it'll be yesterday. So, but yeah, so they are finally got episode 80 out there and properly titled "Where the Hell Have We Been?"
That's the question I've been asking. They're one of my favorite shows on the network. So,
right.
You can't get too missing on a brother because people forget about you.
Man.
So I'm glad they back.
Right.
I'm gonna check it out in the morning. That'll be my listening flavor for the morning. I'll be listening to their podcast in the morning. But definitely love them sisters. Love their show. Funny show, and just love what they do. So looking forward to listening tomorrow. That's good.
Yeah. So, speaking of sisters that we love, we got Stacy back on with us tonight for another segment of Psyche of a Single Mother. So this should be fun. So just a hint, Stacy kind of hinted that she's thinking about dating outside of her race for the first time in her life. So we got to talk about this.
We got to talk about this. This should be interesting.
You're right. So we'll have her on shortly. But first, I hear your Lakers are going to the finals, sir.
Well, you know, once LeBron came on, I spoke to the fan membership crew, and they definitely are saying that it's okay for you to claim the Lakers, even though you really just claiming LeBron. I definitely got that little. So go on and join you. It's not just my Lakers; it's your Lakers too. You can definitely jump on the bandwagon. Nobody's gonna throw any hate, no darts at you, because at this point we glad to be there. And whoever wants to be with us is with us. That's how we feel. And it's all about the Mamba. This year's about the Mamba. Right. And we all got hands open, wide open. And yes, we are in the finals. Yeah. And I called the game. I thought for a second to go sweep with the Nuggets. Ended up going 5 games. Right. And that's what they did it in 5. So I can't say it was too big of a surprise. Just those boys just wasn't ready for LeBron and AD and the crew.
True. Yeah, and when you sent me over my application, man, I DocuSigned that joint and sent it right back. So I got my Lakers fandom on board as long as Bron is there.
As long as Bron is there, and we understand the fine print. It's one of them things that again, we haven't been in the finals for a minute, so we know what we was getting into when we brought LeBron into the fold. That there's going to be some folk who might stay with us after LeBron go and might not. It's all good. All right. Come on board. We all welcome.
Now, if y'all can find a way to fleece the Pelicans twice and trade for Zion after Bron leave, then hey, I'll stick around for a while.
You never know. Maybe New Orleans is more interested in gumbo than winning finals. So
maybe.
We would definitely throw it at them to see if they're interested, because we are about having stars on the Lakers. True believe.
Well, the Lakers will be facing off against, let anybody else tell it, the underdog Miami Heat. But Jimmy Butler does not believe they're underdogs.
I don't blame him.
Yeah, right. I like that mentality.
Yeah.
So with that being said, we ain't gonna, we're gonna go straight no chaser before we break it down a little bit. But who you got, and in how many games?
I got the Lakers in 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
How about you?
right. I'm taking the Lakers in 6 also.
Okay.
I think Miami is underrated talent wise, and they're what we know them as effort wise. So they'll get 2 games, and the Lakers again are going to give you a dud. They give you 1 dud every series,
Right.
and the Heat is talented enough to take another one. So I say Lakers in 6.
I think I think the dud factor is there. Even though I think with LeBron and Rondo, they're gonna come focused, and even Danny Green. I think folks that have been there, they will make sure that the team is focused. But that being said, I think what makes the Lakers thrive is their shooting. So I'm with you. We should expect at least 1 game where the shooting doesn't come, and when they're not shooting, they are definitely beatable. If Pope, Kuzma, Danny Green, they not hitting their shots, yeah, you just don't know what you're gonna get. But that being said, I still like the Lakers, even with the shooting of Miami, to really just pull it out, man. I think we got the defenders, the wing defenders, to run and hang with the shooting of Duncan Robinson and Hero. I think we got those folk, and I don't think they really have a legitimate answer for LeBron and AD at the end of the day when we go pick and roll and make it an offensive game, which I mean a half-court game, which I think is Miami's strength. I think Miami is a half-court game, so I don't think half-court team. So like with the Nuggets, where they probably wanted to do a little more up-tempo, I think Miami and Lakers play a similar game in that they're going to be a lot of half-court offense, just a different style of it. So I think it should be matchup-wise a good, fun game to watch because Miami does play a share the ball, move around, coming off picks type of a style of basketball, which is fun to watch. And then with the Lakers, you have you got an all-star approach where you have AD and LeBron, and everybody knows we running the offense through them, but with the support of their shooters and the big men. And again, we talked about Dwight a lot, last week, but again, he's making a presence every time he's on the court, man. And I think when you're talking about the body and Bam for 6-7 games, having Dwight Howard to be physical with him and match some of that physicality, I think is going to make a difference because the Celtics did not have a consistent physical approach.
Right.
Anybody to match up with Bam like that. And so I'm thinking Dwight should be able to play that role and body up a little bit.
Yeah, Daniel Tice wasn't cutting it.
And he stepped up some games, and then Kanter came in, but
nothing consistent though.
Right, he's not consistent, and defensively he is a weakness.
Yes,
Kanter.
absolutely.
So when you go and pick and roll a lot, the way eventually Miami, when they saw Kanter on the court, they just did a lot of pick and roll, and I don't blame them. You're not going to be able to do that against the Lakers because our big men, even when you get to JaVale McGee on a possession or two, can switch off and guard somebody.
Right. Yeah. And then that's like, I know everybody's going to throw out the Detroit Pistons at me, but the Lakers absolutely, NBA championships are won through star power and through superstars. So before y'all throw out the Pistons at me, don't forget that, that Lakers team they beat, as much joy as I took in it at that point. Everybody knows that Karl Malone and Gary Payton, who all them other dudes, Shaq was fat, like they were all out of their prime. So, that's my point is that there are definitely 2 answers that Miami Heat doesn't have an answer for going into this that we know about. So Jimmy Butler has guarded LeBron pretty well during the regular season, but that's regular season, Brian. We know how that switch city flips when it's playoff time.
Correct.
And they definitely don't have an answer for Anthony Davis, offensively. He's going to be able to score at will if he wants to, if he's aggressive. Definitely you're not going to be able to, put, Kelly Olynyk and Jay Crowder on Anthony Davis. It's not going to work. Again, Jimmy Butler may be able to guard LeBron in stretches, but again, they have no answer for him.
Right.
So the Heat has to win this series. If they win, they have to win it at the peripheral positions, shooting guard or center, and that's unless they play AD a lot at center. So they're gonna have to win this at the positions that the Lakers are weaker at, and hope that none of those guys step up. Because, like you always say, the key to the Lakers winning is always that third guy stepping up. Regardless who it is, and it can be somebody different every night. And if nobody else steps up, which we haven't seen before, hence their being in the championship. We haven't seen that lately when nobody steps up. So the Heat are going to have to win that way. Hopefully, for them, Duncan Robinson, hits 11 threes, or Jay Crowder gets hot from the corner. Something like they're just not going to beat them head on.
And I think, you hit it on right there. Like, what's going to be the creative solution to attacking the Lakers? And a name you didn't mention was Andre Iguodala, and we know he, in his younger years, was definitely a good matchup defensively to put on LeBron. But that was years ago, and not to say that he can't do it a possession or two. Can you do it for a series? So when you mix in Jimmy Butler and Andre and maybe even Crowder getting on LeBron, I just think that's going to really pull away from any offense you're going to get from those players if their responsibility is trying to slow down LeBron. And just the way the Lakers are playing, man, the contributions that they're getting from folk. Usually every game you got a handful of guys from Dwight Howard, Kuzma, Danny Green, Pope, Caruso, and Rondo. And out of those names, throughout the playoffs, it's like 2-3 guys every night out of those names are stepping up. And so to me, that just, they're beating them they got quality. They got the quality advantage when we have better stars. But then in terms of the quantity, like when you're talking about the depth of that bench and potential for players, and people was talking about the Clippers and coming into the season with a team like that. Well, man, you got 7-8 players that can put up 20 points on a given night. That's where the Lakers are. On any given night, one of those players that I mentioned could go off. So, but I do like, the storyline of LeBron in Miami, just with Pat Riley. Was there any type of tension when LeBron left? So, and just Pat Riley just being the ultimate title chaser in the NBA, just having so much success building winning teams. So here's another opportunity, and his long history of being in the NBA. Here's an opportunity for him to add, but I just don't think that's the case this year. Right.
Yeah. So, and then an interesting, because if you look at LeBron's career and you break it into chapters, like that first go around in Cleveland was kind of like his upbringing. And then going to Miami was kind of like him going away to college for 4 years. And then coming back home to Cleveland was like him actually going to work and, starting his life's work and bringing a championship to Cleveland. And going to L.A., it was kind of like him, setting himself up for the rest of his life.
Right.
And so to look at those chapters and you look at, most people's lives, those people that you meet in college usually are the ones that become, there's a select few that become your lifelong friends. They're not, you didn't grow up with them, but there's a few of them that are going to be friends for the rest of your life. And that's kind of how it is in Miami. It's Pat Riley and, Dwayne Wade. He doesn't have a deep roots in Miami, but he did make some lifelong friends. However, you do also make some frenemies in college.
Right. I ain't never liked that dude.
Right. But
ever since such and such. Yeah, I ain't been speaking with him.
Right, exactly. But you kind of had to hang around with him because you had mutual friends, or they show up for homecoming, you at the same parties, but you know that you really don't like each other. That's kind of where him and Pat Riley are. They respect each other for what they do, but there's still a little bit of animosity there, and that's why neither one of them will address it. They just choose to compliment each other. So it's going to be interesting, and LeBron can, of course, make history here if he'll be. Well, first, who do you think wins MVP, AD or LeBron?
So if the performances continue the way it has so far, I will put it in LeBron's hands.
Yeah.
I think he has, out of the two, been the more consistent player. AD has had some amazing bright spots, but honestly, man, I think where the moment that, to me, like the MVP defining moment for LeBron so far for me in this playoff run, has been him guarding Jamal Murray.
Oh my God.
And to me, that's what I want from an MVP. Somebody that says, "Oh, game's on the line. This dude is hot. Give him to me," and be successful with it. Or somebody saying, "Oh, game's on the line. Got to take the shot. Give it to me." And so to me, like, as I look at this playoff run, and if I was voting for the MVP, that's going to be something that I would remember and take into consideration. Like, one of the hottest hoopers on the planet, LeBron checked him and, had amazing success and was really the key to their victory by him shutting down Jamal Murray at the end of that game. So, that to me is what I remember. And again, AD has been magnificent. Definitely, to people, some people have critiqued his consistent aggressiveness. And, I think that's because he is, a player that has a mismatch every time he's on the court. For the most part, people expect that player to just go off and be aggressive.
Right. Yeah.
But, I also acknowledge that when you are a superstar, and you have role players and other stars on your team, you don't have to approach the game like that and still be successful. So as long as you are consistently showing up throughout the game, to me, like, a game is a long time. So you could, allow some people to dominate in the first half and then say, "Oh, all right, fellas, I got the rest." And that's what superstars do. Or you can come out and say, "Oh, you know what? Tonight, I'm putting up. I'm gonna set the tone, and I got the first quarter, so y'all can believe in me. And then guess what? I'll incorporate y'all for the rest of the game. So I can't just look at somebody's stats to just be like, "Oh man, he only got 4 points in the first half of one game, so he ain't being." I would like him to rebound more, but at the same time, you know what? We got Dwight Howard and LeBron.
And that's
there's
his
other people.
only job.
All right, come on. What a guy really need to be risking twisting an ankle and, you know what? We know he's injury prone, bruh. We don't need you to do that. We good. We got folks to grab the hoop. You just play defense, score, and be that guy. So I'm very pleased from a Laker standpoint in terms of the productivity we've got from AT and how he's performed with LeBron. He's gotten nicked up throughout the playoffs and continue to gut it out and play, which, I can't say whether or not he would have did this when he was younger, because I can't say I watched his game that much, but it definitely impressed me. Anytime somebody, because you play basketball, you're going to turn your ankle and they hurt. So for you to play through it, to me, shows that you got the heart, that you are committed to winning, and I'm not mad at him at all. I'm just would give the edge to LeBron just because I think he has consistently played a little better.
Yeah, and and as your son put it, LeBron, all he did was foul Jamal Murray. That's your son blasting all over Twitter. I wanted to reply to him, stop hating, but
let him work it out.
Yeah, I just want to let him stew in it.
He going through some stuff.
I was just like, just chew on that. It ain't gonna taste bad. It ain't gonna go down easy, but just chew on it for a while. But
I will say it was interesting watching some of the games with him. and kind of just enjoying that play, especially when my team is victorious, right? But it was kind of cool just from, that's part of the blessings of having a son or daughter and they being a sports fan and enjoying that passion with you, whether y'all are rooting for the same team or not. It's just good to enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially in this pandemic environment where we're lacking the opportunity to say, oh man, let me come by and watch the game with you.
Right.
Or let's go out and grab a brew and watch the game. So being able to watch it with somebody who understands it, has, as much passion and knowledge of the game is kind of cool.
Yeah. And they just so happen to, if you don't root for the same team, if it just so happens to be both of your teams are playing each other, that makes it even better.
It makes it even better. And let me say this, in terms of just one quick note on Jamal Murray, because I think that guy has proven himself to be a superstar and someone who, is we'll see once we get fans in the house if he can do it consistently, throughout a whole series on a road or away game. So we'll see. He still hasn't proven that, but he definitely has shown that he can be a consistent high level player. And he made 2 plays this playoffs that to me are 2 of the best finishes I've seen. One was like a spinning layup that he kind of went counterclockwise.
Right.
And, they show that a lot. And when I saw that in the game, I was like, oh my God. Wow.
Right.
And then the other one was that scoop reverse, layup that he came under and spun it, that people was comparing to Michael's layup like that. Yeah. And again, so to me, to be that young and in one playoff run to make 2 amazing, iconic plays. And
then there was another one when he was falling away and shot it with his left.
Oh, another one. And he actually did that twice.
Yeah, right.
Shot little floater like that. But the one I know you're talking about was an amazing. And he was hurt.
Right. So, he makes some signature plays throughout the playoffs. And like you said, if he can prove it, he can do it consistently throughout a series, because as impressive as it is to keep coming back from 3-1 deficits and winning series, that shit wears on you. Yeah. And it showed with them, with their mentally, physically, they started getting banged up, and you saw they were a little slow, at the end of the Lakers series. You could tell, as young as they are, they were a little low on energy. It's almost like they were like, fuck, we down 3-1 again? I don't know if we can do this again, boss.
I don't know. And every time they made a run, the Lakers made a run to kind of squash any of that little confidence and energy that y'all was getting. Not today, son. We ain't doing that.
Right.
Not today. But forecasting their future, though, they have an amazingly bright future when you talk about Jokic, Murray, Porter Jr., Grant, those 4 players right there. And even you talk about Gary Harris Jr., another great player. They got the nucleus of a team that will be in it, next 4 or 5 years.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So watch out Lakers, watch out Warriors. Some of these teams, Rockets, Clippers, that have been the teams of the last 5 to 7 years, because you have a team in Denver that, to me, this playoff run is going to elevate them next season, and where I expect them to have a good regular season and come into the playoffs ready to take people's heads off.
Yeah, and they were missing Will Barton.
That's true too.
Yeah. So and the guy who made some money, if he sticks around, if not, either way, wherever he goes, he made some money for himself in the playoffs. Is Jeremy Grant. Jeremy Grant.
Woo.
Yeah. So very impressive run. Throughout, at least the Lakers series and in the latter parts of the Clipper series, he made himself some money.
Which is why, he was, he's probably been in the league now, maybe 5-6 years. I'm not sure how long. But, and he came in young. So he's still a really, really young player. And that's why, when you're looking at basketball, and you're looking at some of these young players who done been in the league 3 years, is just caution people, don't give up on a 21, 22-year-old, because with talent that some of these players have, if they get it right, they could be 23, 24 when they get it right, and then have 9, 10 years left in the league easy of being a really, really, really good player. So teams are so quick to give up on some of these players.
Because the next new thing comes in, and they're like, well, you ain't got it yet. Let's
bring somebody
draft
else.
somebody else. And, if you ain't got it.
21.
Right. Really. So, just an overall intriguing series. Even the blow. Me and Keon were texting, and it's a 2 good series in the East and Western Conference Finals. Even the blowouts were good, interesting games. So looking forward to this, Miami and the Lakers. Last thing before we move on to some NFL, what do you think about the Clippers getting rid of Doc?
So it surprised me, but at the same time, I definitely can respect the idea of a need for a new voice after 7 years.
Right.
So it's kind of like, you had a shot, and even longer, you had 7 years, multiple superstars, and for you to go out in that fashion, even to a talented Nugget squad. If I'm ownership, if I'm leadership, I definitely would consider, making a change. But again, it did shock me because that's Doc, and with these veteran players, I thought they might keep a veteran coach. So I think it's going to be interesting to see who they bring in to coach Kawhi and Paul. Right,
and to see, if they bring in some, another big name to get the big three in there, or if they move Tyronn Lue up to promote him to head coach, so it'll be interesting to see what they do. But either way, is if Kawhi and or PG don't become better leaders, it ain't gonna matter anyway.
Yeah, correct. And I think when you look at that team, the biggest mistake they can make in firing Doc Rivers is for the players to look at that firing as, oh, okay, yeah, it was his fault.
No, right. Yeah.
That'd be the biggest mistake they make. Really, they need to look at themselves in the mirror and say, what can we do to get better? And even at the general manager or whoever's pulling in players, you made a good point. Do they want to go get another star? That's something to strongly consider because of the performance of Paul George and Kawhi. You might really want to look at that.
Yeah, and I know we always joke about, I always clown you about the best player in the game moment, but and you said something that there's a reason why guys are considered the best of their generation or the best of their era, because players may come along that do certain things better than that guy, but overall that guy's still a better overall player for the long haul.
Correct.
So, Kawhi may have a year where he's a better defender, or he's a stretch of 3 to 5 years where he's a better defender, or PG may be a better scorer at certain points. But to be able to string all of that skill set together, everything, and maximize on it, and capitalize on it and during winning time, is why players like, we said LeBron, Kobe, Tim Duncan, guys like that are generational players. As opposed for that reason. And, as good as Kawhi, and as good as Kawhi is, even if he's a great player, he still hasn't shown that he's a great leader. Yeah. He's not vocal. We know that. And we don't, he hasn't shown that he's willing to, openly, criticize teammates to make them better, and on national TV. And we know Paul George is not that guy. So, yeah, it may be good for him to bring in, even if it's not a superstar, another top-level player who can kind of lend some leadership skills to that team.
Well, the player that I think of, you mentioned Kobe and Duncan. So the player I thought of their era who at certain points might have had a better stretch or could do things better than Kobe and Duncan, but in most people's eyes was not the player of that generation, was Kevin Garnett, right? And what did it take for
Right.
KG to get to that next level and show that like he can win? Well, he had to get matched up with the Celtics. And
Right.
when he gets to the Celtics and has people that, maybe to your point about distributing some of those responsibilities of being at the top of the team, that leadership role, and there's so much to that. Maybe it did help to be around a Paul Pierce, a Rondo, a Ray Allen, to where but KG just do what you do real well. And if you great and he great and he great and he great, we should be able to win. But maybe I think to your point, Kawhi is that KG of this generation where he will definitely be top 5 of players of this generation, but maybe he really shouldn't be in the conversation of was he the player of the generation.
Right. And a lot of things had to go right for him to win a championship.
Correct.
Yeah, I got you.
Correct.
Oh.
But I think it's going to be, I haven't looked at free agency to see, who was available this year, to see really what is at their disposal. But, stacking teams is not as easy.
It's not, and we know it ain't gonna come through the draft because thanks to playoff P, pandemic P, they don't have a first round pick until 2023.
Wow! So forget about that.
Right. So you can't even leverage that pick for another player.
Correct.
So you just gotta go spend some money if you want to get another start.
But who's available in terms of all-star, like high-level shooter or defender?
Right.
Where are they going to get that player from?
Right. And I mean, they're not going to pull somebody like a Giannis or nobody like that. So it's going, I don't know.
I mean, probably their best bet is in terms of really trying to improve. If they could find we were just talking about young players that people are giving up on. That might be their approach, that somebody who's, not going to get signed for that second contract.
Jeremy Grant.
Exactly. Right. And just try to slide him in at a good salary, but maybe not a max salary.
Right.
And allow him to flourish and get better with the Clippers.
Yeah. And it's doubtful that Denver would maybe even bring Jeremy Grant back because the emergence and the continuing of growth of Michael Porter Jr. Is, his name may push Grant out the window anyway.
But if I'm the, and that's a good point. But if I'm the Nugget, the one I would push out the window is Millsap.
Absolutely.
Like I don't know when his contract is expired and what his situation is, but to me, like, that would be the guy that I would say, okay, I got 2 forwards in Porter and Grant that need to get some more playing time, and do you the one. Either we bringing you back in a reduced role, which I think I'll be a good idea. He might not want to do that, but I think what he brings to a team is valuable. But in terms of the minutes, I would really look to slide him out the way and get Porter and Grant more minutes because they're only going to get a lot better.
Right. Yeah. And I'm with you. Oh, all right. Well, we will definitely be talking about this the finals starting as you listen to this tonight, Wednesday night. So game 1 will be Wednesday night, and we'll definitely keep you guys up to date. We'll be talking about it. We got 10 minutes before we bring Stacey on. You think you can talk about your Cowboys in less than 10 minutes?
Ooh, I'll try, right?
Well, actually, let's do it this way.
Okay.
Do you?
Let's talk about the positive results for the next 10 minutes. Because if you see, that, the Vikings
and the Titans,
I think the Titans are dealing with positive results,
right?
And like the possible, when you think about what this could impact, I think there's so much more to watch and learn as this plays out. But they're talking about, like, I didn't even think about it, but they're shutting down their facilities till Saturday.
Right.
So how we practice if I can't get into a
Right.
facility to
And the Titans are saying, the Titans play the Steelers next week, so I've been keeping tabs on it.
Right.
And the Titans are saying they're willing to play the game without practice.
Okay, so for
Right.
Tom, and okay again because I just feel like I've been sold a bill of goods when it comes to football, and I'm really feeling like I'm looking at the Wizard. What is it, the Wizard of Oz? It's like, I'm looking behind the curtain right now because it's like, okay, two things that y'all told me that maybe might not be so true. So one, we don't need preseason football. Do we or do we not to play the NFL regular season? And two, do we not need practice? I'm just saying, what we doing here if this is like, well, we don't need practice, but man, let's play anyway. Hold on. That was me in flag football.
Right. Well, in their defense, like once the season starts, your practice is pretty much I'm not saying I agree with it, but once the season starts in the NFL, your practice is pretty much game planning because you don't have time to teach
Makes
fundamentals, and then like the NFL just doesn't grant you that kind of time. You can't hit every day, so your time.
Your body's recovering.
Right. So a lot of their implementing a game plan, and all you're doing is really taking your whole playbook and paring it down to play specific for that game plan for that team you're playing against. So they can do that virtually. They've shown during the offseason they can kind of do that virtually. Now, will it create some kind of rust or sloppy play? Maybe so, but they can implement a game plan virtually and not have to be in front of each other practicing. I guess not saying that it doesn't hurt, but I'm guessing that's what they're saying is we can implement a game plan. We'll be ready to play. May not be the best version of us, but in the spirit of actually playing games and keeping this thing moving, I guess that's what they're saying is we're willing to play.
Okay.
I ain't gonna argue with them. Shit, they playing my team. Don't practice. We don't want y'all to practice.
Right. Who needs practice?
Right.
Practice. We got Allen Iverson practice.
Right. So.
Talk about.
So I'm guessing that's what they're saying. But that's the interesting thing, and if teams don't take this seriously, and we've seen the NFL come down hard on coaches not wearing masks on the sidelines. If teams don't take this seriously, Pooh's premonition may come true.
Yeah, that's real talk. He is who I thought of when I read that headline. I was like, oh,
right,
Pooh.
Because all it takes is one.
Pooh. Yes.
All right,
yes.
And how fitting would it be that of all the players and staff members in the league that a special teams coordinator would be the one to break out? A special teams coordinator from the Titans. Like I always clown like regular Scott that the Titans are, the kind of like the third dude who plays Green Lantern. Nobody really cares about the Titans, and nobody hates the Titans because nobody cares about them. So the special teams coordinator from the Titans is the one that's going to end the season. How fitting would that be?
That would be crazy.
Right.
Just if he's the one that brings it all down,
right?
Whoa.
Yeah.
But I think it in some ways the fact that we're just seeing something like this, or to be into this effect, this impact, gives them credit for pulling off what they have pulled off. That we haven't had an issue up until this point. But it definitely raises some questions in terms of where we go from here.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, I'm really curious to know in each case who's the fault, who was the one who got it all messed up, so that we can know who to point the finger to. Like, why weren't you following protocol? So.
Right. Absolutely. So. Yeah, man. So it's it's and of course they're talking about whether they postpone the game till Monday. I don't know what that's going to accomplish,
Right.
or some or moving the game to like week 7, where it's like I think like week some where the Titans and the Ravens and the Steelers all have bye weeks in week 7 and 8. So instead of the way it is now, basically they moved the Steelers-Titan games to week 7, and then the Steelers and Titans would have their bye week this week, and then the Ravens will move their bye week to week 8. And the Ravens and the Titans will play in week 8. So they moved that game from week 7 to week 8. So ways of messing with the schedule to make it work.
Yeah.
But, but again, they may get results back, and it may be only these 8 guys who have it, and they can play Sunday. Not those 8 guys, but everybody else who's not positive can play Sunday, or Monday, however they decide to do it. But best believe that, if they've gotten this far in, they're only 3 weeks in, but that's further than a lot of people thought they'd get. We didn't think we would have a season at one point. So if they got a way to make this work, they'll figure it out.
I'm sure they will. And, they've done a good job at it. But so far, I give them a lot of credit for all of these leagues, really. I think they've done an excellent job. And we were highly doubting the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
But we were doubting, and we don't want to give them too much credit too early, because it just takes one bad week or two to all jeopardy. So,
right,
yeah.
So, we'll see. It's
But one thing I found interesting is that they did not test on game day.
Oh, they don't.
They do not test on game day. So they said the reason was they couldn't get the results back.
Okay, so I was wondering.
So that was the reason why. The article I was reading, why they speculated on it, because the NFL really hasn't given a reason.
All right.
But it does make it hard to kind of determine when someone was actually infected, and kind of makes it difficult in that regards. But
yeah. So, at this moment now, the sickest people in the NFL are those 8 members from the Titans and Falcons fans.
I was, as a Cowboy fan last week, I was just feeling it and gave them the business. Now I kind of feel bad for them, because I really have seen and heard and got texts from folks who they just in a real bad place right now. And, this is such a continuation of the Super Bowl. Like,
right.
That's everybody gets it. But this is something that this is only a continuation of that.
Yeah. Like, it's almost better just to suck. Just go back to being like the Falcons of the 80s.
Correct.
And just plain out suck instead of breaking your heart like this every week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just feel bad for them, because it's one thing to deal with a team that's not performing well and be a fan of that team, and you just kind of level your expectations of, what, this is what it's going to be this year. But to have a team that be teasing you, then not following through and continuing to give up leads, totally disappointing.
Right.
I feel sorry.
Yeah, I do. I feel bad for Falcons fans, but stick around. It's your fault. You keep getting cheated on like this.
You're right. You're right.
Oh man. Well, that was a good little filler. Talk about these pandemic players, pandemic Titans. All right. Well, let's get Stacey on. I want to find out why she stepping outside, man. I want to find out.
It should be interesting.
Yeah. All right. So, what we didn't know was that there must be something going around in the Columbia area. Stacey is under the weather too.
Oh.
So So her and Pooh are self-quarantined right now. Not together. Don't
together.
Saw no rumors, but they're both.
We have to talk about that tomorrow on One Eye Shut. That's the word on the street.
Yeah. But they are separately self-quarantined right now. Okay. Stacey, we hope you get better too. We'll talk to you next week. But yeah, so well, I guess you got all the time in the world you need to talk about your Dallas Cowboys, sir, or whatever you want to, because like I ask every single week, what do you
Yes.
know? You know, after week 3 in the NFL.
Okay, so what I know. So let's before I get to the Cowboys, let's talk about some other things so I can save my things for the Cowboys for last. So first, Kansas City Chiefs are looking like really them and Seattle are just right now two teams, two quarterbacks that are playing amazing football on both sides of the ball. Just both of them offensively, I think, are ahead of the game than their defenses. But when you got offenses like the way and quarterbacks the way they do, you don't need shut down traditional steel curtain type defenses. You just need to stop that team from scoring as much as your high power squad. And I think
Right.
each of them had that level of defense. So shout out to them. Just watching the game yesterday, I want to see continued growth from Lamar Jackson in terms of his um, deep passing and just down the field. And it there's a consistent when teams are able to slow down their running attack or get up on them score wise. Their offense, and I'm not necessarily, it might not even be Lamar Jackson for all I know. It could be their play calling, route running. I don't really know what the issue is. I just know their offense has to develop that ability to challenge people down the field when they
Right.
need on a consistent basis. So that has to improve. Oh, the Jets. I just got one sentence for them, and they are struggling. And I'll just leave it like that for the Jets. That's all they really deserve is they are struggling. And some of it is play, some of it is injuries, but either way, they struggling.
Right.
Okay, let's talk to the Cowboys right now. So first of all, I know this could be a rationalizing Cowboy fan stance. I admit I could be that guy right now, but 1-2 as a record after playing the Falcons, the Rams, and the Seahawks. If I looked at the season schedule and, if I was being realistic and objective, 1-2 could easily be a turnout, an outcome result from that schedule. And it not say that we are a terrible squad. Like each of those are, you know, teams that can beat you. The fact that we had to play like we were pretty lucky to get the one win we got, you know, isn't a good sign. But, from what I've watched, while the Cowboys have been inconsistent, they haven't been terrible. There have been moments where they've actually played pretty well, offensively and defensively. They just haven't put 4 quarters together on either side of the ball. Both sides of the ball have been inconsistent. Where penalties, turnovers, missing coverages, but everything being everything, I like what I see from this team, and um, some of our young talent is making plays. I think we got a cornerback in that we will have on our team for a long time in Diggs. Stefan's little brother. I think this guy's a player, has the size, the tackling ability, and he has the mindset that I'm really happy what I see with him. I wish we could run the ball a little more effectively, but we also are missing um, 3 of our offensive linemen from last year. So, and we had our one of our best offensive linemen in Martin playing right tackle during the game this week because
Wow.
he's usually a guard. So it is one of them things where everyone knows if your offensive line is out of sync, your offense will be usually out of sync.
Right.
And despite the offensive line, with the way they have had to bring people, off the depth squad to play, the depth chart to play, we've been pretty productive from an offensive standpoint. And, Dak is still able to get a lot of yards, score some points. Our wide receivers are making plays, spreading the ball around. But, we just can't run the ball effectively, consistently over the course of 3 games, which as a football player, if your offensive line isn't cohesive, usually the running
Right.
game where it's going to show.
Absolutely. Right.
So to me, like that's expected that, we got guys in here and really we just asking them to pass block and we'll just move the ball down the field in other ways. CD Lamb's a player. I like what I see with him.
Mm-hmm.
And all in all, I think Dak is had a pretty good, I give him above average, not superstar level season. But at the end of the day, though, in terms of is he a franchise quarterback? Is he one of the top quarterbacks in the league? Not the top quarter. He ain't in that group, but I would put him in the next group of quarterbacks. He's, to me, is a young quarterback that what I see from last season to this season, I definitely see improvement. The holding the ball, that was the biggest thing I thought he had to overcome from last year to this year. He's definitely not holding the ball, much more decisive, much more understanding where to go with the ball quicker. And so I'm optimistic of where we are, especially in the NFC East, and where the Giants aren't even an option. The Redskins are way too young.
Mm-hmm.
And Philly right now is struggling.
They talking about benching Wentz. Like what?
Okay, they talk about benching Wentz for Jalen Hurts, who I really like, but I think it's too early for Hurts. And if that move they're making, that's a signal that the Eagles are really giving up on Wentz, because you can't go back to him after that.
Right.
So everything being everything, again, I'm like I said, I could just be rationalizing things as a Cowboy fan, but I do like where we are, especially knowing that on our offensive line, we will get Tyron Smith back. We will get Lyle Collins back. Woozy will come back. Sean Lee will come back. None of these players played yet on Sunday. Van Der Esch might come back this season. So we'll be adding talent eventually throughout the season. And but one player that has played well, and I think was definitely a question mark, but it's good to see, because if he's going to play like this, we got a keeper, Alden Smith.
Right.
And, he is balling out, giving us consistent pressure, where we haven't got that from DeMarcus Lawrence at all yet. Mm-hmm. And Everson Griffin has been consistent, but not dominant.
Right.
And
they're playing him more inside as well.
Correct.
Especially on passing down. Yeah.
Correct. So we are a team that our secondary has been a question mark, and it has played that way. We're giving up. Like, there was a couple of plays, like 3 or 4 plays, where players are wide open down the field, and that is something that you have to say is miscommunication, or just for whatever reason somebody didn't get the call, whatever, right? Because they were definitely in the wrong setup, and they thought they had deep coverage or deep help deep and didn't, or
thought they was in man when they in zone.
Right. Sound. Right? Yeah. The dude was wide open. It was a play where Lockett crossed the field, and you're just looking like, how come nobody's covering this guy? Like, the best wide receiver is just running through the coverage, and now is wide open. So there were several plays where he was wide open.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a thing where they'll grow. Mm-hmm. And I think hopefully they'll get better as we get some of the veterans back and the young boys get some experience under their back. We got Cleveland this week, which is a hot offense, but they inconsistent too. So it's going to be a fun game to watch, but I definitely think this is a winnable game.
No doubt. Yeah. Yeah, as much joy as I would usually take in Cowboys being 1 and 2, I gotta agree with you. I gotta rationalize right along with you that there's no shame, and we all know a loss is a loss, but considering everything, there's no shame in a one possession loss to a Super Bowl favorite, in Seattle.
Correct.
Especially with a quarterback playing at the level that Russell Wilson's playing.
Dude, when he gets the ball, I'm sitting here like, we lost.
Right.
I mean, we up, and I'm
Yeah.
sitting here like, we lost.
Right.
We lost.
Yeah. So the dude is unbelievable. And so they have that loss, and who else y'all lose to?
We've lost to the Rams.
The Rams. So it's still early
In game one, where truth be told, it was a
right.
terrible call
Yeah.
at the end of the game
Right.
that we would have at least got a chance to kick a tying field goal at the end of the game.
Yeah. So I can't give you too much grief. It's kind of like the Texans, man. Speaking of what I know, the Texans got the worst luck in the NFL. The schedule makers need to pay them dudes some money. How you open up the season with the Chiefs, the Ravens, and the Steelers? That is not fair.
That's not fair at all.
No wonder they 0-3. And like we said, a loss is a loss, and to a team like that, like to a team, that you played 3 elite teams, but there's also something that affects your psyche when you're 0-3. Right? So even though you've lost to really good teams, you still 0-3 as a team, and we got to fight out of this hole. So the Titans need to be, they deserve reparations from the schedule makers. I don't know, but pleasure to see. Again, the Steelers were good enough to win, not dominant consistently. There are moments, and there are like parts of the game where they are dominant, but not all around. But they're good enough to win, and that's what you want. Is even when you're not playing your best, you want to be able to stack wins. And that's what they're doing. It's good to see Ben back. The defense in the first half gave up 21 points. Second half gave up 0 points. So, again, they're not consistent, but they're showing they can do it. And in a season where you didn't have an off season, those are the things that kind of encourage you. When when your team shows that we can do it, it's just taking us some time to gel at this point.
Right.
But third straight game we've had a 100-yard rusher. First game in I think it was 2 years where first game in 3 years where the Steelers didn't have a turnover.
Wow.
Yeah. So some encouraging things. I'm impressed by. There's not a lot of new things going on other than having Ben back. Still, it's good to see Juju back. The way he's playing. The tight ends are impressive with Vance McDonald, Eric Ebron looks like a beast. So it's good to see the young running back get some burn. Anthony McFarland, little speedster out of Maryland.
Yeah,
he had like
he's
6.
nice.
Yeah,
I like him.
right. So he had 6 touches for 47 yards or something this week. So good little change of pace. So it's good stuff, man. The defense is the defense. They, guys making plays. Good to see Stephon Tuitt get his first sack of the season. And, just another weapon that we got on that side of the ball.
And the Claypool.
Yeah, Claypool.
Like him. I like
Right.
him.
So
Playmaker.
right. And just you can just see like talent dripping off that dude.
And the Steelers are consistent in how they build a defense full of they just find these defensive players and plug them in, and I think that is a credit to their franchise, their organization, how they just continue to find these players, man, and just plug them into a system and continually have a hardworking, get to the ball 4, 5, 6 players at a time. And usually don't beat themselves type of a defense.
Right, and that's that's something that Mike Tomlin always says, and at first it just didn't make sense to me. Well, they would go into a draft admitting that talent is not what they're looking for. And they, there's a phrase that he always uses to say, "Was looking for hearts and smarts." because you need those kind of, like, you need the Antonio Browns, the talented dudes.
Right.
But you also need the dudes who has a lot of heart and a lot of smarts.
And they find them.
And they find them consistently. And like you said, it's another thing that impresses me with that defense is the ability and the willingness for the veteran stars to mentor the guy who's going to replace them and take their job eventually. You saw with Brett Kiesel mentoring Cameron Hayward, or you saw with Kimo von Oelhoffen mentoring Brett Kiesel mentoring Cameron Hayward, Cam Hayward mentoring Isaiah Buggs, and now you got these guys starting to play more.
Right.
You just don't see that in a lot of places, and it's impressive, and it's admirable to see guys that are that selfless and continuing, and it speaks to why they can play so well together as a unit.
They and I'm just sitting here thinking, I'm like, that just speaks to, again, their approach as an organization, because how many teams are even willing to invest in keeping those players there that long to where now they can serve as a mentor?
Right.
Where other teams, again, and I understand that approach. You got Belichick, his approach is, he'd rather cut a guy a year early than keep him, which I get that, especially in the salary cap.
Right.
I get that, but it just speaks to, other teams have different philosophies, and sometimes it shows that there's value in keeping a guy. They're not that they're not productive. They're still productive older players, but there's an additional role they play in showing the young guys how to play this game and how to be a professional. And in terms of, the lack of penalties and playing smart, things like that matter. I look at the Cowboy game, and we had some costly penalties and some drives that hurt. And those things just add up to where you might give a team an additional third down, and next they might just get a field goal on that drive where you might have forced them to punt. But at the end of the game, when you lose by 2 or you lose by 3, those drives make a difference.
Right.
So, shout out to their team for that. I hate giving too much shout outs to the Steelers because I don't like them that much. But I do like to give credit when credit is due.
Yeah, it just don't seem right when we all over the show giving love to Cowboys and Steelers from the other way. It just don't sound right. So y'all record this show, download this shit and save it, because this ain't gonna happen often.
No more Steeler compliment.
Right.
That's it for the night.
Oh man, well, I think we were gonna ask Pooh, what was his Mitch Trubisky update for the week, but I think everybody knows Mitch got benched and he ain't playing no more. Nick Foles is now the starter. So unless Nick shows us he remembers that he's Nick Foles and he goes to shit soon, Mitch is done.
So I hope Pooh not sick, because he was out celebrating that Trubisky got benched. And Pooh jumping up and down, dancing or something. I hope that's not what happened. But honestly, I think it was kind of early myself to bench your young. And I know he earned the job. He had to fight for the job in training camp. So I get that. It's like, if he had to fight for the job, how much did he really own the job?
Right.
But still, this game, it's week 3, so I would have gave him another shot. And because you bench players all the time, so especially quarterbacks, like I don't think there's nothing wrong. You could have gone back to him and say, look, hopefully you learn something sitting on the bench, and even if it's just a game or two, but to just say, dude, the job is now Foles.
Right.
When you are 3-0.
Yeah.
I think that was, even if you give him one more shot and you lose, okay, you're 3-1.
Right.
But I think long term, I would think your investment is in this quarterback, and at this point, that is gone now.
Right. I'm thinking that's kind of got to be an admission that we're officially in need of a quarterback.
Got to be an admission. That's how I'm taking it.
All right.
I'm taking it that we're moving on.
Yeah. And like we said, earlier, if you go away from a guy you can't. I think in this situation, if Foles starts to stink it up, you can go back to Mitchell, just because you know Foles is not your guy for the future either. That's the only reason why that situation is different. But in this case, it seems like because we all know Nick Foles, he's not gonna, he can come in and spell you for a few games and maybe through a playoff run. We've seen that happen, but he's not your quarterback of the future you want for seasons, and so they don't have a quarterback officially, is what they're saying.
That's what they're saying, and so now where do you go from here in the future is definitely what they're thinking about. So yeah, I just think it's questionable, and I understand players might have been screaming for Foles. I can understand how their confidence in them could be high, and maybe not so much in Mitch after how he's been inconsistent, but he's had some good quarters, some good halves of football this year, which I think you do expect from young players and
who didn't have it all season.
Who didn't have an off season. So again, it's like, what were you expecting from this guy coming into the season? And if you were expecting more than what he showed in terms of being an inconsistent, sometimes he's really good, sometimes not so much, maybe your expectations was off. Right? Because to me, he pretty much gave what I would have expected, and therefore, if that's what you expect out of him. Yeah, you gave him a job. He gave me what I expected. Why am I taking it from him?
Yeah, I totally blew my son's mind this weekend. So Lincoln was watching. We were watching the Ravens Chiefs games Monday night, right? And he for an 11-year-old, he knows a lot about football, but there are things that he doesn't know, of course. So I just started to hit him with this and see how he reacted. So we're watching Patrick Mahomes tear up the Ravens defense, and Lamar Jackson do what he does, and so I was like, hey, did you know that the Bears had the 3rd pick in the draft 4 years ago, and they traded up one spot because they thought somebody else was going to get Mitchell Trubisky? And they drafted Mitch Trubisky. Guess who they could have drafted? He was like, who? I was like, well, amongst some names they could have drafted were Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, and Deshaun Watson. He took off his shoe and threw it against the wall. I said, no way.
he mad. He not even a
right.
Like, this is just bad football.
Right. But that's what's got to be the frustrating part. Of course, we have the benefit of results, and hindsight's always 20/20. But to know, Pooh as a Bears fan, to know, especially like we said last week, when Deshaun Watson's your guy and you had a chance to get him, and you said so. I guess that's what has to be fueling these decisions that the Bears are making, because they got to be completely frustrated with what they could have had. I can hear that. So to see probably the 3 top quarterbacks in the league, arguably, doing what they're doing, and you could have had them all in one draft, or each one of them, each of them in one draft, and you stuck with the guy that you drafted. This got to be frustrating to just watch him.
The problem though is, as fans of the Bears, as a Jets fans, some organizations, that's just their luck. That's just their story.
Ain't it though?
And I'm not really sure what we did in the past to where that's just the luck of this squad. And I think sometimes it's that Joe Namath win as a Jet fan. That's what I look back to, is like, yo, we shot out all our luck in that one Super Bowl.
Right.
But I mean, it's just like whoever we pick turns out to be a bust, or we are the team that picks somebody who might be pretty good, but who we could have got that job,
right.
And it's like, you're looking at the Jets team right now, just real quick, and I look at Sam Darnold, who's been okay, but you're looking at Josh Allen and you're saying, man, we could have had him,
right?
And but it's hard. The other part about the Jets is it's so hard to even assess how good of a quarterback or players we have such sometimes, because either the coaching is sucked, or the team, the general manager is making bad trades, or in this case, we got so many injuries.
Right.
So it's hard to just say, Sam Darnold, you haven't been effective, or we haven't built a quality team, because in this case, injuries have played a huge, huge role. And so it's too early to tell, but I definitely feel you in terms of the frustration of where the Bears might be at right now, because when you mentioned that list of quarterbacks and potentially, as we go into the future, people might look at this one of the best drafts of quarterbacks ever.
Yeah.
And y'all picked the bust.
First. You had everybody else on the board.
And we said, nah, give us that guy.
And
I still remember, we still remember that podcast afterwards.
Oh, man.
Pooh was just like, why did we
quit.
pick him?
I'm done.
Why did, out of all the quarterbacks, we picked that guy?
That one. Yeah. So, I don't know. But, Pooh, if you're listening to this, I got good news for you. I really hope that you appreciate this, Pooh, because this is just for you. It is time for Al's Baseball Roundup. Pooh, I know you're going to appreciate this. Smile, sir.
Smile, sir. Enjoy it and learn while you can. Yes. First of all, shout out to the powers that be that heard my subtle, not so subtle request to have a segment of Al's Baseball Roundup, because we haven't had one in almost a year or so, right? So good to be back. Good to be talking baseball. And it's just perfect timing because today is the first day of the playoffs. So
my White Sox won. I didn't even know my White Sox was in it, but they won.
Okay, so here we know that's step number one. Go look at the brackets, right? So you can learn who's in the playoffs, right?
I'm so used to them being in last place.
Yeah, they have had a rough stretch over the last years, but that's what's so special about this year is that there are a few teams that overcame past lack of success, COVID, and have actually made it to get into the round, the playoffs. And the fact that they've extended it, I think, had a number of teams in the playoffs, I think, made a big difference. But, for those who don't know, the 2020 baseball season was shortened. So we didn't play the 162 games due to the COVID-19 pandemic this year. There was only 60 games, but they, were able to get through it with a few hiccups in terms of infections and positive results. But for the most part, it was a positive season. They started spring training on July 1, and really, I think they pulled it off. And as I mentioned, this year there's going to be there were 16 teams in the playoffs, so they did expand it, and the World Series should begin on October 20th. So just again, as we looked at what this baseball season was, there were a few rules that happened, and some were even permanent, like the one where they went from 25 players to 26 players. I think that's a good thing, add an additional player. I think in long term, that's going to be a good thing for baseball. One thing that I thought was kind of ill in terms, but this is a permanent rule, I think, is that now as they had to designate either you were going to be a position player or pitcher before the start of the season. And then only players who were designated as pitchers were going to be allowed to pitch in the regular season or postseason game. So for the most part, unless you had a lead by 7 runs, every now and then baseball was sneaking somebody in and saying, okay, he's an outfielder, let's have him pitch the last inning or two. No, we're not doing that this year, son. You either got to be one or the other. The other thing I like that was hopefully, I think this is a permanent rule, is that pitchers can only face 3 batters unless the inning ends or a pitcher is injured. So you got to face at least 3 batters. So it had got to a point in baseball where they were swapping out pitchers, every hitter, every pitch. You know what I mean? And, in terms of the flow of the game, I understand trying to be a strategic manager and everything, but it was definitely wearing on folk, honestly. And the other thing was, they did have, they have, what is it, like you can review a play, but in the past, managers had up to 30 seconds to challenge a play. It got reduced to 20 seconds, and I know 10 seconds doesn't sound like a lot, but in baseball, which is already a slow watching sport, those 10 seconds of are you going to challenge it or not,
Right.
I think did make a noticeable difference. So I definitely like that. And just a temporary rule for this year is the designated hitter was used in the American League and National League. So I'm curious to hear the response of how they think it went this year, because I kind of liked it.
Yeah, I think that should be permanent.
Right. As a traditionalist, I always thought, no. But I did kind of like the extra power in the lineup in the National League. So, yeah, we'll see. You think it should be permanent?
Yeah, one, just like you said, it's, if we, you like the additional, skill on the offensive side of the ball. And then two, it doesn't make sense to make it legal in one league and not the other. So it's not like it doesn't work. You keep it in the American League, why not use it in both?
Right. Especially 40 years of an experiment in the American League.
Right.
Okay, we see it works.
Yeah.
It brings excitement to the game. And even with what you're missing in terms of some of the strategy involved in having a pitcher in the game and double switching and stuff like that, I think it definitely kind of the benefit of the extra runs and excitement in the game is worth it. Right. Another thing that they added was in terms of just extra innings. So in the regular season, each half inning of that extra inning, they automatically started with a runner on second base. So just to kind of limit of how many extra innings we're going to have, especially in this COVID environment where we don't want too many long inning games, knowing that we got to play a game every day.
Right.
I thought that was a nice twist, and I don't know if they'll do it or not, because you figure in the future they'll be able to break out the season a little more. But I thought it made it exciting and made it instantly, and you jumped into extra innings with somebody in scoring position, and so just the intensity of the game just increased in the extra innings.
Even if they just did it, once every 3 innings in extra innings. If it gets like the 10th inning, and then you don't do it again until the 14th inning, if you get that far. At least
I think and you've said this before, one of the problems baseball has had is an unwillingness to adjust and listen to creative ways to improve their game. And I've definitely been one of those folks who said keep it as is. But I think this season has been a good test for some of these rules, and even though some started out as it's temporary, I'm hoping that they think about, even like you said, even if it's not every inning, but every 3 innings, 2 innings, however they want to do it, they should keep that. It's not going to be a postseason game.
Right.
That was just a regular season.
Yeah,
in the playoffs, they'll play traditional baseball. Right. To your point, right? We get it. That's the playoffs. It's a different baseball. Right. But in the regular season, to keep it moving, keep it interesting. Right.
And it's,
I like that.
182 games? 162 games. Man, do something. Make it interesting and keep people watching. And especially to go back to the DH. That's another opportunity for dudes to become all-stars and Hall of Famers. I mean, you think of guys like Tino Martinez, Mo Vaughn late in his career.
Yes.
Guys like that. David Ortiz, guys who become Hall of Famers as a DH, and add something to the game.
Without a doubt. That's definitely extra positions and possibilities for players. So I would recommend they look at and adjusting that. As we get into the postseason, they have expanded it to 16 teams, 8 teams in each league. The first round is going to be the best of 3, and the final rounds will be, I think it's first of 3, then best of 5, then best of 7. And but then they're playing them while the wild card games, they're being hosted at the higher seeds park. Once they get past the wild card, then the final 3 rounds of the postseason, they're going to be played at neutral sites.
Oh, really?
Right. So, and I think California and Florida will be the states that host, these stadiums. But I think that's going to be interesting. And again, pandemic related, trying to decrease the possibilities of environments basically ruining the scheduling of games. So again, I think that's totally pandemic related, but they'll be played at neutral sites going into the final 3 rounds of the postseason.
Good stuff.
So yeah, I think that's interesting. I think like I said, it should be interesting. Some names to remember just as we're going through these playoffs. You got Mookie Betts. He's a MVP candidate with the Dodgers. First year balling out. Has shown to be a postseason performer. Look to see, how he does this year. Aaron Judge is back off the injury list, looking good. A new name with a young star who's in the playoffs. I think for the first time, Fernando Tatis Jr., a shortstop that is just killing it. Same team, you got Manny Machado, who signed a big contract there last year. Definitely has earned his money, and he's someone who has shown to play well in the playoffs. So looking to see if they can last to play against the Dodgers. And then another name, we recognize his name because his father was a Hall of Famer, but Vladimir Greto Jr., another possible AL MVP candidate, is definitely somebody that keep your heads up and ears out for that guy, because I'm expecting him to have a great year. Things of note, you got the Cardinals, St. Louis Cardinals, and the Miami Marlins. They both made it to the playoff despite dealing with the coronavirus outbreak this season. Right. I just thought that was an interesting thing when I saw the bracket. Like, wow, they had to shut their team down for
right.
And still made it. So definitely, there's going to be a lot of people pulling for them just on the fact that so many people in the world have had to deal with the coronavirus. And here you have a team that has overcome it. So I think there'll be some people who are pulling for them. But, when the fact that they've added this wild card, this best of 3 format, man, it's really a wild card. And I think there are going to be some teams that people expected to get past it, but because so many things can happen when you're playing a short series like that, you just never know. A lot of variability when you're playing best of 3 formats, and we've seen that in a lot of instances in the past. But all in all, as I look at it, I'm thinking, my Dodgers are the team to beat. They have the pitching staff, they have the relief, they got the offense. They added Mookie Betts. They're just stacked, and they have experience. So they've been for the last 5 years a consistent threat to win the World Series, and I'm hoping this is the year we can pull it out, because we've been there quite a bit, knocking on the door. And if it wasn't for those Houston Astros stealing a World Series or 2.
Literally.
I'm sorry, did I call them the Astros? I've committed to calling them the Asterisk. The Houston Asterisk.
They can be the human Asterisk.
The Houston Asterisk. There it is. The Houston Asterisk, because they should put an asterisk next to their World Series accomplishments, because it is highly questionable after the cheating that they have, according to Major League Baseball, committed. And I think as we talked about this year in the recap, I think the biggest beneficiary out of no fans being in these stadiums was the Houston Astros, because the worst they got this season was when one of the Dodgers, got a little chirpy with them and ended up throwing the ball at one of the players, and the guy gets suspended. But other than that, man, they were able to go through this season where really it wasn't even that big of a deal, because there were bigger issues to talk about.
Right.
So he got lucky. They got lucky.
They did.
But look forward to to the playoffs. Hopefully, next month or so, bring me back for a little Al's baseball roundup, and by then, the World Series will be over, and we can talk about how the Dodgers pulled it out in 6 or 7 games to get their World Series title. But I think as part of this sports palooza that we've had over the last few months of just so much sports, I have enjoyed, watching a little baseball. And if there's any baseball to ever pay attention to for the casual fan, it's playoff baseball. So it in terms of baseball, playoff baseball doesn't get any better, where it's just every pitch counts. So I'm glad to be here. Looking forward to the progression. And hey, let's get it in.
Cool. Well, yeah, just next time you want to talk about it, just let me know. I'll put it on the agenda. And if I forget, just start talking about it. It's your show too. So,
all right.
With that being said, that was your latest installment of Al's Baseball Roundup. Yeah. Before we get out of here, we're not doing any trivia, of course, because you can't beat yourself. But we do have a listener question.
Okay.
So one of our listeners, Darius from Hampton, Virginia, listened to last week's show where we were talking about our favorite athletes of all time. And so his email was, last week you guys talked about your favorite athletes and how you saw some of them after their prime. So his question is, who are some greats that you saw later in their careers and you had no idea how great they once were?
Oh, first of all, our listeners, like
all this shit.
This is definitely one of the best questions ever.
Right.
And not just because of its uniqueness, and just the complexity of the question and the ability to kind of now just kind of be nostalgic, which we all like to do, kind of look back. But I love when you connect it to a previous show.
Right.
Like that to me, it just makes it just dope. Keep it coming. I love that.
Right. Shout out Darius. And shout out to Dennis from last week for the dope ass question that people were following up on.
Correct. Right. So off the top of my head, a name that comes to mind is Bob Mcadoo.
Yo, he was on my list too.
Because his whole career was over.
Mm-hmm.
He was a coach by the time I really got to appreciate how great of a player he was, where it was like, oh, wait. I mean, I liked him, but you telling me he was that unstoppable dude? Yeah, he was an unstoppable dude.
Yeah.
And he was okay, but he was more of a fan favorite.
Mm-hmm.
By the time I'm really understanding basketball, he was a veteran that, could get up, some big buckets, but he definitely was nowhere near the player he was. So that's definitely somebody who came to mind. And honestly, another player who I was old enough to watch when he was done was O.J. Simpson.
Oh, wow.
And was not really paying attention in his prime. I was, too young if I was alive, but just, as he's dominating the NFL, I'm really just being born and becoming a kid. But by the time I'm just starting to watch the game, he's done. Hurt knees, playing for the 49ers. Just a shell of himself.
Wow.
As another player that easily comes to mind. Who else? Who you got?
Bill Walton is the first one on my list. By the time I was paying attention to the NBA, Bill Walton was like a role player, bench player on the Celtics. And I just remember them always talking about Bill Walton. And I was like, why do you keep talking about this dude on the end of the bench? And it wasn't later that I learned how great he was in college and early in his NBA career. So he's the first one on my list. Another one I had was Orlando Warwick.
Oh, yes. Okay.
I didn't know he was a scoring machine. He once was.
Yes, he was.
Yeah. And, and of course, the more I learned that, Michael Jordan kind of, became the star in Chicago and he was kind of pushed out.
Yep. I was about to say he was the young stud before Michael.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, those are the first two I thought of immediately. And then Willie Stargell was another one because what people may not know is like baseball was the sport that I started following first because my father's such a baseball fan. And so I remember old Willie Stargell as a kid, and not, just like, who this old fat dude? But not realizing how good he once was. And I don't even know if it was like watching live games or but I just remember like watching him as an older player and thinking he's not really that good. But then, getting older and realize how good he once was.
I can see that. The one I would add to the list, and I don't know, but the question is like, but they were done,
right?
But I know one player who I really watched at the end of his career, although I don't know if he was done, but Mean Joe Green. I saw him at the end of his career, where he was nowhere the player he was when he was younger.
Right.
But still great player, and he's got a lot of respect in the league. But I can still remember though my uncles talking about how dominant of a player he was when he was young, just amazing.
Yeah, it's funny how you remember those conversations, like you said, with the older people in your life, like your brothers and your uncles, have them pass that down to you, firsthand knowledge like that. And I remember, even like the, I was talking again to Lincoln the other day, and we always talk about, a lot of football stuff, and he was saying how funny it looks for Tom Brady to be in a Bucs uniform. We just started rattling off names, and he actually mentioned Joe Montana in a Chiefs uniform. I was like, how the hell you know about that? Right. But yeah, man, another one for me is Larry Nance. I never knew how good Larry Nance was. Because I saw him when he was, in Cleveland, and he was old with the messed up hairline. I never knew, how good he was, how good of an athlete he was. So yeah.
Another player who, again, wasn't done, but Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yeah.
Even though he was great in the last 5 years of his career, still a really productive player.
Right.
I had no clue how great he was in college and the first part of his career. And just kind of totally missed that part. Rick Barry is another guy that by the time I'm seeing him, he's kind of just kind of trying to get a spot in the league. But turns out in the ABA in his early years in the NBA was a great player. Just didn't know that by the time I'm watching the NBA.
Yeah. And you mentioned O.J. Simpson. O.J. Anderson was another one that later, even though he was still productive with the Giants during their Super Bowl run in 91, I didn't know how good he was like in Miami and early in his career. So he's another one. I had never even heard of him until, the Giants made that run.
Add Dave Cowens to the list.
Wow.
Another like early 70s. I mean, he was a Rookie of the Year in 71 and was the NBA MVP in 73. By the time I'm seeing him, like really seeing who this guy is in the Celtics, he's the 12th guy on the bench.
That's crazy.
But I mean, he got some time, but he was definitely like the backup center guy. Quality minutes, played solid, but had no idea he was at one point the MVP of the league.
Wow. Yeah.
So, as players hang on and, like we talked about earlier, as franchises find value for veteran players even to be that productive star on the court, there's still a lot of value to have these veterans around. You will get to know them in your, as you're just learning the sport if you haven't seen them in Like, damn, why he even on the team?
Right. Like, who is this old dude? Kelly Tripucka is another one for me.
Oh yeah.
I had no idea how good he once was. So, but yeah, damn good question, Darius. For one, thanks for being a loyal listener, obviously. Two, thanks for your creativity. It's a damn good question. I'm paying attention to what we actually say. But yeah, man, we appreciate it. But yeah, Finney, y'all, like we tell y'all every week, and Darius obviously listens. But if you want to get something off your chest, you disagree with something we say, you just got a damn good question for us, and hit us up on social media at Go Defy Life on all platforms, or you can email us at info@godefylife.com. Y'all keep shooting these away. We have a lot of fun with these.
Yes.
So, oh man. Well, again, no trivia tonight. Pooh, get better. Stacy, get better. We'll talk to y'all next week. Al, this is what's your parting shot, man? What you got for me?
Let's see. My parting shot is on a night where we are doing our first presidential debate in a week where the New York Times has reported that our president is a tax avoider and one who's in hundreds of millions of dollars in debt. I am, for the record, here tonight to make a disclosure. Drum roll. I am officially giving up trying to figure out why people support Donald Trump and would vote for this guy. The fact that we have a candidate who has significant tax issues, he's a liar, he's shown to be a racist, he has made multiple disparaging remarks against veterans and soldiers, his interaction with foreign policy from Russia to Ukraine to how he's just offended all of our allies. I just his stance on social justice and race, why somebody would support this man, I am removing all emotional attachment to that decision. And if that's who these people want to vote for and support, no longer will I look at them as idiots. I'm done with that. I'm done. That's my parting shot.
Ditto, ditto, ditto. Absolutely. And in most cases, I don't even have to wonder anymore. I already know why they support him. So it takes all doubt out of that conversation. I ain't got nothing crazy, man. You know how sometimes, and I'm taking this opportunity now because we, when Pooh's sick, we hate the Pooh sick, but it does become all glimp shit all the time when it's just me and you. Yep. So this is an opportunity for me to shout out how proud I am of my family. Shout out to the Muscle, becoming a homeowner this week.
Okay.
And, everybody might not know who I'm talking about, but the Muscle, you know who I'm talking about. Proud of you, baby.
You know what we talking about. Proud of you.
Right. Proud out to Neek, the Muscle's big sister, for becoming a landowner.
Yes.
And to my niece.
Proud of you, Neek.
Yes. To my Neek's daughter. I'm proud of you becoming a landowner as well.
Oh, I hadn't heard that bit of good news.
Yeah.
Ahead, girl.
Bought land right next to her mama.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
So,
love it. Maybe I'll get to see her next time I come to visit.
Right.
Little shot at my niece. Don't little shot at her. That's all. If she listening, nothing but love for you, girl. Just Uncle Al got shots.
Right. So can't wait to see you. Shout out to Wiley's crew, man. Proud of y'all.
Yeah.
It's rare that you don't have to look far. That most people don't have to look far for inspiration. And we never have to look far, no further than our family tree for consistent inspiration.
True indeed.
So, yeah.
Keep it up. Keep it up.
Absolutely. So, Shayla, I can't wait for the first cookout.
Oh yeah, right. She done slipped in a little comment that there's something in the works. So
Right.
Can't do that without us like starting to write on our calendar, especially at a time where we starving for ways to see each other, right?
For real.
Folks don't be like, hey, all you gotta do is provide the place, baby. We'll do everything else. Just an effort to see each other.
And especially, right. And especially, me and Al itching at the opportunity to put new grills on the road. Man.
You know this, and you know this.
So, you just let us know. Oh, man. So, well, that's all I got, man. All
right. Great party shot, cuz.
Right.
Love that. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So again, shout out, get better, Pooh, feel better, Stacy. We'll talk to y'all next week. This has been episode 175 of the Defy Life podcast. Damn, 175.
175.
We'll talk to y'all next week. And until then, Defy Life.
Defy Life.
Positive change in the community, having real conversations and therapy. And that laughter's the best remedy. Got that heavy dose of humor for your hearts to heal. With mental health, it can't get any more real. Yeah, Best Medicine Podcast. Laugh, love, learn. Best Medicine Podcast.
Best Med Pod. It's your man Simba Roar back in this thing one more time, bruh. Come get your weekly diagnosis Thursday at midnight. Only on the Defy Life Podcast Network. Check us out, though.